Welcome to weaponseducation.com. The theme of this video is to discuss different gun manufacturers. We're going to talk about a lot of them, including Kimber, Glock, Smith & Wesson, Colt, Ruger, Taurus, Kahr, Sig, F&H, Springfield, H&K. I know I'm missing a bunch of them, but this is within my arsenal, and I'm excited to bring this video to you. It's all about the differences in manufacturing. And I would not have purchased any of these firearms if I did not like the manufacturer. My wife is here. Tammy, say hello.
Hi everybody.
Honey, you've known me a long time, about almost 20 years. We've been to the range dozens and dozens of times. What can you say about all these different manufacturers? Why would you purchase one of these firearms?
Well, personally, I can't say one is any better than the other, in my opinion. I think we have a lot of them because we appreciate the good things of each of them individually, I would say. Like I like going and shooting a bunch of different ones at the range. So I like all of them. So well, that would be my choice.
Yeah, this video is not about who is the best. This is about possibly some of the differences. And really what I'd like everybody to do is to throw in your comments. Because imagine if you had about 100 firearms and you went to the range once a week. It would take you 2 years to get back to the very first firearm that you shot 2 years ago with 50 weekends, 52 weekends a year. So we have a lot of firearms. I really haven't had too much experience with shipping stuff back and forth. As we go through some of these, I'm going to buzz through them and tell you some of my experiences and try to educate you a little bit on each manufacturer. For instance, Sig Sauer. I'd like to think of this as a massive gun channel. And I'm very proud to have a lot of these products here to bring to your attention. Where else can you get a pistol like this, a 5.56 pistol? Let's start off with Sig and go through all these firearms on the table. I have one or two that represents each manufacturer, and I'd like you to throw in your input as to what your experiences are with each manufacturer, good or bad. That's fine. Okay, we just looked at a Sig 5.56 pistol, very cool. Let's look at a Sig right here, P220 Equinox, absolutely beautiful from the custom shop. Now I had a chance to call Sig today. I'm making this video the day before Christmas Eve 2011. Most of the manufacturers were closed, but I did get a hold of Sig and Kimber, and let's start out with Sig. This is what Sig had to say. And I learned a lot. Most of their guns are not polymer. And as a matter, they boast about that. And the materials they use are super high quality aluminum alloy or super high-end stainless steel. And they do not use any what's called MIM, metal injected molding. Where what metal injected molding means to you when you're purchasing a gun, like for instance, here's a car, we'll get to a car, and I love cars, that's why I purchase cars, but they do use MIM. It's a way to cut cost and to diminish the quality of the metal, okay? Now, Sig boasts that none of their firearms used MIM. Also, they also boast about this, and I learned from this. 99% of all Sig Sauer firearms made in the world, in the whole entire world, are made in the USA, out of Exeter, New Hampshire, in their plant right there. And they went from 200 employees 18 months ago. This is, like I said, this is Christmas 2011, so 18 months ago they had 200 American employees over there in New Hampshire. Now they're up to 500 employees. And they're growing fast. So you got to look at that serious. When you buy a Sig, you know you're buying a product that's employing a lot of American people, and the warranty is what they call is a limited lifetime warranty. They have one of the better warranties of all manufacturers. I think all manufacturers stand by their guns, by the way. And from what I found out, the few times I had to ship stuff back and forth, they've done pretty well by me. But if you find something that differs, that's what this is all about. Throw in your comments. Okay, we have a lot of firearms to go through. That's what I have to say about Sig. Let's talk about Kimber. I'm going to show you here an Ultra Raptor 2, one of my everyday carries. Now this, as we look at this beautiful Kimber here, I called Kimber and this is what they told me. Every single part of a Kimber does not come from the outside, meaning every part is manufactured within their Yonkers, New York warehouse. Extremely tight tolerances, accuracy, and reliability. The warranty is 1 year, and I drilled them on this. They said, well, they said, Tom, after a year or two, and if it's the original owner especially, we'll stand by our gun if it falls within our 1 year warranty, if it's 3-4 years out. I don't know where they're going to go with that, 3-4 years out, but they claim to stand by their firearms. I've had no problems with my Kimbers. I've never had to send a Kimber back. And they also claim that their parts are not purchased from other sources. They use their CNS, high-tech, computerized machines, CNC, I want to correct myself, CNC, high-tech computerized machines to manufacture all of their materials within their warehouse. So there we have Kimber. I like Kimber. I think they're incredible, and hopefully this will give you a little tip as to what manufacturer you like best. Please throw in your comments. Let's buzz through some of these guns now as time is buzzing by. Let's talk about Glock right now. This is a Glock 20C. I can't think of another manufacturer that allows you to purchase more aftermarket products for their gun than Glock. I can't think of another manufacturer that gives you the biggest bang for the buck. And for $550 approximately, this Glock 20C 10mm. I mean, gosh, the knockdown power of this gun, all the aftermarket products you can buy for it. You can change the trigger. You can change everything about this gun that you want. And I just love Glock from the sights to the grips, to the Gen 4s. I'm going to SHOT Show. There's a lot of new Gen 4 models that are being introduced, and I'll be at the booth there to bring those videos to you. And there's about 4 or 5 different models of Glocks that are changing, from going from Gen 3 to Gen 4 for SHOT Show 2012. But you gotta love Glock. We have to love all these manufacturers. Let's move right along here as time is buzzing by. Let's talk about Colt. Here's modern day Colt. This is a Colt railgun. This railgun right here is the very first time they put a rail on their 1911. And it's made in 2011, the 100-year anniversary. I'll show you both sides, it's so pretty. Okay, you see the 100-year anniversary? Nice. That's a beautiful firearm. Is the modern day Colt the same as a Colt from the early 1980s, as this Delta Elite 10mm? I'm going to be bold here and say I'll take the older version first. I would take my original, if I had to choose from one of the two, not saying, I mean, I purchased this. I paid $1,100-$1,200 for this railgun. I love it, and I love it. But if I can scoop up more of these older, early 1980 Colts, I would do that. But which brings to the point is every firearm, zoom up for a second, please. Thank you so much. Every firearm has its own fingerprint. Okay, they have their own fingerprint. So, for instance, if you bought 10 of these Colt Delta Elites back in 1984, maybe one of them would have some issues and you had to send it back to the factory. And that goes true with all manufacturers. They all have different fingerprints, every single firearm. They only shoot about 1 or 2 rounds, maybe 5 rounds, possibly, through them before they send it to you, the consumer, when they're mass produced. Unlike an Ed Brown, which they'll shoot 100, 150 rounds to make sure everything is absolutely perfect. But you're paying almost $3,000 for this firearm. So let's move on here. I just wanted to put that in your head, as every gun has its own fingerprint. And when you get a good one, you want to hold on to it. I can only think of one firearm, honestly, that I thought was a total lemon, and I only sold one gun in my life, for real. And it was a Kel-Tec back in around the year 2000, about a decade ago. And it's the truth. I couldn't get it fixed. I sent it back to Kel-Tec. They sent it back, and it just kept malfunctioning. I gave it away for like $150 on a trade or something. Way back then, it was a 9mm. I'm not saying Kel-Tec is bad or anything. I know their modern day company is different than what it was in 2000. But every firearm has its own fingerprint, and the theme of this video is for you to throw in your input as to each different manufacturer. Let's move along here. Let's look at a Taurus Judge. Okay, let's look right down here. Okay, we know this shoots a 410 shotgun shell, also 45 long Colt. And this is a big boy, and I have this for specific reasons I spoke about in the past. But what I like about the Taurus is that they were innovative and came up with the idea of the 410. And now we know Smith & Wesson has the Governor and a lot of, not a lot of other companies. You can get a 410 also with Bond arms, and those are pretty much the three. But Taurus is a company that puts a lot of different guns out there on the market. What's your opinion on Taurus? Do you like it or dislike it? I'll say this right now as we're talking about revolvers and things are just coming to my mind. Please zoom up. We're going to talk about Smith & Wesson next and all these safety check guns. What I like about Smith & Wesson is specifically their performance center. They are known as a revolver company. Now, they have skyrocketed their sales with their new semi-automatic line, including the E-Class Series 1911 and other firearms in their semi-automatic line. But I really do like the revolvers, specifically. This is a 44 Magnum, and I gotta tell you, this is really sweet. So when you hold a Smith & Wesson Performance Center, it's like a fine clock. Hear that? And then you hold, not to pick on Taurus, but any other, even a Smith that's not Performance Center, it's not the same. So, we'll talk about different manufacturers. I think Smith is known for their revolvers. I do love their Smith & Wesson E-Class 1911, and I've got about a dozen Smith & Wessons. I love them. Oh, or I do have a Smith. Here it is. Here's the E-Class. Please take a nice close look at that. Let's put it here. It's just gorgeous. I shot this a lot now. I've got about 300 rounds through it, and it's absolutely had zero malfunctions. And I have to hand it to Smith & Wesson, talking about manufacturers, is they have the scandium frame. And no other manufacturer has scandium frames. They have that trademark, they have that copyrighted, and they have the scandium frame specifically within a lot of their models. So when you're looking at a Smith & Wesson, whether it be a revolver, which I have the J-frame, 357 Magnum. I love that scandium frame, and I love this 1911 scandium frame. Moving right along here, let's talk about another manufacturer. What do you think about Springfield? Now this XD, this is an XDM 45 ACP, 4.5-inch barrel. Just absolutely incredible. I can't brag about this gun enough. I just ordered a shoulder holster for it. It's actually in production, a custom shoulder holster. And if I'm going to put a gun on my shoulder holster system, on my body, that carries 2 spare magazines, I'm going to spend that kind of money, it's going to be a special gun. It's going to have a lot of firepower, it's going to be a high quality gun, and it's going to have a lot of different attributes that I like about the firearm. And I do like Springfield a lot. Let me know your impressions of Springfield. I have absolutely zero qualms with Springfield. I love everything about it. And let's move along here. Let's talk about H&K. Okay? Massive firearm channel. Looking at a lot of guns. That's what this is all about. Gun candy. This gun is called the H&K USP Compact 45 ACP, two-tone with the rail. I love this firearm. And let's talk about H&K in particular, because that's what this video is all about, is your impressions of different manufacturers. The first H&K I got was a P2000, and I really think that is what turned the page for me. I went from owning like 10, 12, 15 firearms to just like jumping in as like a gun junkie where I just had to have more guns. And I'm up to almost 100 now, but I have to really say that H&K was the manufacturer that put me over the edge because of the quality, the German craftsmanship, and everything about an H&K. Now, we all differ in our opinions. So to cover all bases, you know, I'm fortunate enough I can just buy one of each and say, all right, I'm good to go. But I want your input. You know, I know everyone can't just have 100 guns. I want your input because the pool of comments here is really what this video is all about. So we can do part 2 of this video as to who is not as the best manufacturer, but who gives the best quality control, who has the best parts, who has the best customer service, which firearm is the most accurate. I'll tell you right now, all these firearms we're looking at and we just looked at are all more accurate than human beings. All modern day firearms, in my opinion, are more accurate than we are. Let's go to the next one. Let's talk about Ruger. Ruger, known for their .22 long rifles, and this is a beauty here. The Ruger Super Red Hawk Alaskan. As you know, this is a .454 Casull. Absolutely amazing. Massive revolver that really doesn't have too much play in most people's lives, but I'm just showing this for representation of Ruger. I love the company. What is your impressions of Ruger? What's your favorite Ruger? What do you like? What do you dislike about the company? What's your experiences? Let us all learn from your experiences of all these different manufacturers. Let's look at this one here, an F&H, proprietary round, 5.7 times 28. Okay, bottleneck rifle cartridge, very cool. Very cool. We're looking at 30 rounds here at ammo that can travel at 2,000 feet per second. If you're a law enforcement officer or Leo, you're looking at 2,800 feet per second. This is what the Secret Service uses to protect the President of the United States. Pretty cool. They got to pick somebody off at a half mile away. They got it down pat. All right, so it's great to be American, isn't it? Long live the Second Amendment. Let's talk about Kahr. You know, my wife, how often do I carry this gun? This is the Kahr PM40. This is in my pocket. Let me stand up for a second. I'm just ad-libbing this. Pan up for a second. I'm a big guy. This is a 40, okay? This is a 40. Look at this. How's that for a pocket pistol? 7+1. This is what's in my pocket almost every day. Okay, let's go back down here. And it's got a laser too, by the way. Look. Can you see down there? See that laser? Built-in laser, Kahr PM40. I've got a bunch of Kahrs. This is my favorite Kahr. They do use the MIM type materials in parts of their guns, but I've never had a malfunction. They are pricey, but is Kahr one of your favorites? And I'm going to finish up with this and one other here. Now the Ed Brown, that's in a class of its own, but the only reason why I'm showing you the Ed Brown is because what they do different, when you're paying almost $3,000 for a firearm like a Nighthawk or an Ed Brown or a Wilson Combat, what you're really paying for is extremely tight tolerances, all handcrafted, and they're going to fire this gun 150 times approximately before it goes to the public, unlike the mass-produced firearms, which will be fired once or twice, and you get your little brass there within your little bag there within your package when you buy your gun, and that's your guarantee that the gun shoots good, unlike when you buy a super high-end gun. But really, let's just talk about mass-produced firearms. Please take a look back up. You know, when it comes to shotguns, by the way, you got to have Remington in the mix. I have my one sole Remington, and that's his turkey gun. I have a lot of shotguns, a bunch of them, but I got to say that Remington has to be a part of this video because they're part of American heritage. So I'm going to finish up right now, and I'd really like your input as to not who is your favorite manufacturer, because that's unfair, because they're all good. They're all good. It's all about your interaction with the different companies, and for people who are looking at this video, maybe which firearm should they purchase. If you're purchasing a .380, a .40, a .45, or a revolver, I'll say right now, if you're going to buy a revolver, you probably want a Smith & Wesson or maybe a Ruger. Okay, you can't go wrong. If you're going to buy a semi-automatic, you can't go wrong with any of these. You can't go wrong with a Springfield. You can't go wrong with an H&K if you want to spend the money. You can't go wrong with a Glock. This has got to be the biggest bang for the buck, right? You can't go wrong with a Colt. Like I said, are the Colts, modern day Colts, the same as what they were back in the early 80s? That's up to you to decide. Kahr, nice little small package with a laser, kind of pricey, but yeah, I'm glad I have it. F&H, you know, Secret Service uses this. Really cool package. For the everyday user, you gotta love the Glock, and you gotta love the Taurus. You gotta love them all. You gotta love them all. It's a massive firearm channel. Please put your input in as to your experiences with the different manufacturers. Thank you. Checking out.